Good morning to all of our sports bettors out there, and thank you for joining us on the film room slash bets on bets on bets. We got a bit of a collab going here today between the Playbook HQ Discord and the Off the Ball Network. But I'm your host, Kenneth Cotterill from the Competitive Hedge Podcast. We got a ton to get to today. Today is the third Sunday of the NFL season, and we want to make sure that we have you covered on the betting front. By giving you guys some winners, we hope to have you join the Playbook HQ Premium Discord, where we post dozens of plays from six of the best cappers in the space. As I said, I'm Kenneth. I'm joined today by my guy, Walker Bailey, from the Field Stormers podcast. Walker, how are we doing today?
Good, man. Good. Another long Saturday. I've got a sore throat, hoarse voice, but we're good. We're gonna get through this, and we're gonna cap today's card, and then we're gonna go, and then the voice will be completely gone tomorrow. Especially because I'm needing a bounce back after yesterday. We broke even, and we definitely should not have broken even yesterday.
Yeah, I was up a little bit on college football, had a good EPO morning, so it was a good Saturday, which of course means that I'm probably in for a tougher Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. Now, as I said, this is Film Room as well as Bets on Bets on Bets. So Walker and I are going to give you our three best bets for the week. So far through 2 weeks of the season, we're a combined 8-4, which I think is really impressive given how bad Vegas crushed a lot of people last week. Because if you were a Baltimore backer, a Dallas backer, a San Fran, or a Philly, then you had a tough day on the betting front. So we're going to get right into things. We're going through all the games that are happening today on Sunday. No Bills and Jags, no Washington and Cincy. Those are the Monday games. We will be previewing those tomorrow morning as a part of the regular Film Room show. So as you can see from the slide, first game we're looking at is Eagles Saints. I'm going to get it out of the way right now. I'm back in Philly today, plus 2.5 on the road. I think I'll probably sprinkle money line too, just because it's plus 120. I still think that we're overvaluing the Saints a little bit here. I don't think that this offense is sustainable. I think it's been like 15 straight drives that they've gone down and scored. I just don't think that that's going to be sustainable today. I know there's no A.J. Brown for Philly, but I do think that this is going to be all about the run game today. I think Saquon's going to cause some issues for the Saints defense. Walker, how are we feeling about this game?
Yeah, I think the spread's probably about right. I think this game's really coin flippy. I do think though, I do think there's some value in the over. I do think you're in the dome, it's going to be a fast track. I think both offenses having playmakers are going to find ways to score. I don't think that the Saints offense is 100% touchdown rate good, but I do think that the Saints offense has some legitimacy to it in terms of how good it is. Clint Kubiak coming in and changing everything has literally changed everything. And so I do think they're better now than they were a year ago. I do think that I've adjusted a little bit as far as how I look at the Saints, as opposed to this being like a cute, like 4 week early season story. So I don't like either side of the number. The Eagles have lost 9 of their last 11 games. I have considered the fact that they may just not be as good um as what we chalked them up to be. So I'm going to play the over. I think both offenses should go up and down. This could be a who has the ball last type of game, and a defense needing to get a stop.
So that's my first official play for bets on bets on bets is going to be Philly the plus 2.5 today. I think you could sprinkle the money line as well. Walker thinks it's a pick 'em. I think, especially when you see this kind of number, like Vegas is probably thinking fairly similarly to you. So that's where we're at for the first game. Now, second game.
Anytime Vegas swings the line 6 points, I kind of like, I'm like, okay, they've made a massive power ratings adjustment, so maybe I should just hang out and see what happens now that they've adjusted it.
That's fair for sure. All right, let's dive into the second game. We got Chargers Steelers. Just got word that Herbert is a go today. He obviously won't be 100% because he's dealing with a bit of an injury there. But Pittsburgh, they're currently minus 2.5. I wonder if this line is going to shift as we're talking about it, because there was doubt whether or not he was going to play in this game. Now, the over under right now is sitting at 35. It's a pretty gross number in that respect, but it's even gone up to 35.5. So I think they're giving the Chargers a bit more respect now that Herbert's in. What do you think of this game?
Is Justin Fields playing today? If he is, then we go under. So I mean, again, this is going to be just like last week. The Chargers have actually gone pretty run heavy, so the ball's going to stay on the ground a good bit. They've been better on the defensive end. I think they're going to be able to limit. I think everybody's going to be able to limit Pittsburgh on offense. I do think the Chargers will be limited in what they can do due to Herbert's injury. I don't know that they're going to move him around as much and do some of that stuff. And I think the Steelers defense should be able to get stops. I mean, they're always going to be able to get stops. So I think under 35. If you made me, call on a side, then I would lean Steelers. But I can't get there backing the Steelers against a team that I think is probably better.
I do think that the Chargers are better. I'm trying to be a little bit objective here because I think we all thought that the Chargers were a fringe playoff team. They beat Carolina and they beat the Raiders, so I don't think that their 2-0 start is anything too special. But this is a stay away for me just because of the fact that Herbert now playing. Russ, it still says questionable. I don't think that he'll go today, though. I think it'll end up being Fields. And I just think that it's a pretty gross game. I don't trust the over-under here, especially with that Steelers offense. Like, maybe there's some value in playing Chargers team total, but if Herbert's a bit of a statue back there and Watt and them are causing some havoc, then I think it could be a tough day. So I think for now it's a stay away. We'll see how the line shifts even over the next however long that we're on this show. Like, we could see a pretty significant movement because it was closer to Pittsburgh -1.5 midweek. So it shifted just with that Herbert injury news. Now, the third game for today, look, I don't think many people are going to have this game on their TV. Giants are visiting the Browns. Browns are -6.5 at home. Over-under sitting at 38.5. Walker, I'm assuming that this is not going to be on your television set today.
No, but I do, and I think it'll be. I think they're going to make it easy on us. I think you can lay them with Cleveland. I think you lay them. I think they probably run them out of the dog pound. It's. I just think hostile environment, more college style environment. I do think Cleveland probably wins this game by a touchdown or more. I think it also probably simultaneously goes under, which makes for the worst type of game, because I think Cleveland's probably going to win this thing like 24-10.
This is one where I think if you're one of those people that likes betting like multi-touchdown scores and stuff, like Jerome Ford 2+ TDs, I don't think it's a terrible look today because, again, I think, as you said, the Giants are not a good team. Betalytics likes if you like a long shot touchdown play today, they do like Jordan Akins. So I think that's one that you could potentially look at.
If you really want to get wild and there's a candidate for a defense or special teams touchdown, this is definitely the game.
Yeah, this is going to be not a game that you want to tune into. Giants, I find it tough to take a team total under that's that low, but if there's a team that deserves it, it's probably the Giants. So if you are looking the 15.5 being at -110, that's some pretty decent value in that respect.
And then you're also having to break in a new kicker in a road environment where it's going to be windy and stuff, and it's going to be, it's a difficult environment to go kick the football in. So like field goals could be off the table just like they were last week.
Yeah, I would agree there. So Betalytics leaning the over in this game. I can't get there. It's just not one that I love. So I won't have anything on this game. So that way I don't have to really monitor it as I'm on the golf course this afternoon. But that's kind of where I'm at with this game. Fourth one, we're looking at Denver and Tampa. This is one that's seeing a lot of public money on Tampa. Understandably, with how they've looked, they picked up the big win against Detroit. They put 37 on Washington week 1. Denver, though, I mean, when I'm seeing that kind of money coming in on Tampa and the line's not moving, I start to get a little bit concerned that maybe they play them tight today. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I hate it because it's definitely Joe Public, Joe Square, but I mean, I would lay them. I mean, I do think I do think that Tampa's probably the right side. I just think it's going to be hard for Denver to move the ball, hard for Denver to score the ball, and I do think Tampa's done enough on the offensive end with the new offensive coordinator to where they're going to be able to move the ball up and down on Denver and score enough to get home and win this one. You also have to factor Denver's cross country travel too. Like, there's probably not a road game that's further away from Denver than Tampa Bay. Like, this is probably as far of a travel game as they could theoretically have. So I do think that it's one of those, like, Denver could be on early quit watch. Like, if Tampa scores 10 right out the gate in the first quarter or something, and it's 10-0, Denver could just be like, you know what, man, screw this. We flew however many hours to get here. Like, screw this. Let's just pack it up and get out of here.
Yeah, this is, I guess I was confused because when you see this kind of money come in, I thought that they would get past the touchdown with it, and because it hasn't moved, that's the only reason why I have cause for concern.
I think sometimes with key numbers like that, when you get up in between the 6 and 7 range, it's going to take some material. like massive public plus sharp movement to move lines through 7. And then oftentimes you're going to see buyback once it gets through there. And I think they know that. And so I think a lot of times once you get to 6.5, there is a certain point where they're like, nah, like I just don't think we're going to get this thing up to 7. But I will say it was at 6.5 at one point. It got bought back to 6. So, I mean, obviously somebody came back in on Denver. So,
Yeah, this is one I'll monitor it. Maybe, I mean, if Tampa goes up big early, then I miss the boat. But maybe if Denver jumps out and scores a TD, then I can get some good value on it.
hopefully Denver wins the toss and defers, and Tampa goes and scores, where then you can come back and maybe get double digits after one drive, and then you kind of are like, okay, like it's only been one drive, nothing has really changed. So I
Yeah.
mean, you come back in, get double digits, and just go from there.
I think Rachaad White is going to go today, but they do like Bucky Irvin to get in the end zone if you're looking for another longer shot one.
I need to thanks for that because I have Bucky Irving in our fantasy league, so I kind of need to monitor that since Mixon's out. So
Definitely something to monitor. We are going through chatting a little bit of the injuries that are happening out there because I think most of us are playing fantasy football at the same time as putting in our bets, which can be very difficult at times when you're rooting for a guy to score, but then you realize that you're playing them in a league. So
I will say, as like player props fantasy guy, like if you're looking for stuff like that, if Rachaad White doesn't go and Bucky Irving plays really well, like I mean, obviously I'm holding Bucky Irving for a reason. I do think that like there will come a point where Bucky Irving supplants Rachaad White is the lead in this backfield, and so I do think that it could happen earlier if Rashad's out and Bucky plays really really well against a good defense. Like I mean, I think his workload would theoretically go up. So if he is available in your league, which he's not in ours. I'm holding him. And so I do think he's one worth holding, especially if you have extra roster space or you're in like a 10 to 14 or bigger type league where you know holding him and with that extra roster space is not really a tough thing to do.
all right, so fifth game we're looking at. This is your Tennessee Titans. I know you've got to play for this game. Talk to us about your Titans bringing the Packers to town and a former QB that you're pretty familiar with in Malik Willis.
Yeah, I mean, I really actually think this one's pretty easy. I think all the numbers are. I mean, I think the sharp sides are so obvious. Like Tennessee's obviously gonna. I think Tennessee's gonna win this one big. Like, I mean, I think they're pretty aware of what the narrative and what kind of the situation is with Malik coming back is. And like, let's be real here. I know that this is the difference in the NFL between bad teams and good teams, but the Titans are basically 2 or 3 plays from being 2-0, and we're having a completely different conversation about this roster. This team's not bad. Like, I mean, they do really good things. I think they've easily been probably one of the top 5 to 7 defenses in the league so far this year. And they've made a real emphasis on stopping the run this week. As I mean, Jeffrey Simmons in the media, nobody runs on the Tennessee Titans. So I do think that they're going to step up and stop the run. And if this becomes a game where Malik Willis has to drop back and throw the football, that's just not going to work out for anybody. So, well, it'll work out for the Titans, which I thought it would be. I thought it would work out for the Titans if he was throwing the football when he got drafted, not when he was playing for another team. So I do like that. I do like the Titans. I will be personally betting that. I'm not. It's not one of my 3 bets on bets show plays, but what is one of my show plays is the under 37. I do not think the Titans are great on offense. I just think they're mediocre to bad, and I think it's more of a personnel issue than a scheme issue. I think they're going to have a hard time getting in the end zone. Could settle for field goals against a pretty good red zone Green Bay defense. And then I've obviously kind of already laid out why I don't like Green Bay's offense against Tennessee's defense today. I do think that they're going to be forced to throw the football down the field. I think that's probably going to lead to a lot of screen passes, a lot of stuff short of the change, which is going to lead to a lot of punts. And if they have to open it up and start pushing the ball down the field, I do think that there could be some turnovers here. So if you bet the under like I am, I think you're actually rooting for punts versus turnovers because turnovers lead to short fields. But I do think that either way, we're going to get home. I mean, I think this thing has a. I mean, I think this thing could end up 24-10. I think Tennessee's going to win by close to double digits.
So I have a player prop for this game that I do like. It's one that Betalytics likes as well. I like Levis's pass yards today. It's only 196.5. Packers have given up 232 yards per game so far. And I don't want to read too much into 2 weeks in because when you're taking on the Jets and Bears defense, like they're both pretty solid. I know Levis 100 in both of those games, but I think this is a good spot for him at home to have, a deep ball. They got to get D-Hop involved because he's got 3 targets through 2 games.
Well,
And
a lot of the D Hop thing is because of limited usage. Because
yeah,
he had that injury preseason that kept him out, and so his snap counts have been really low. It's not that they don't want to throw him the ball; he just hasn't been reintegrated because he's been hurt. Um,
I
so
know he's
I
been
and I will
hurt, but like 3 targets, even on limited snaps, like when you have a guy like that, you do need to
yeah.
target him a little bit more when he is out there.
Yeah, and I will say this: we'll do the Will Levis thing too, real quick. I think a lot of people have gotten it twisted, but like because of the stupid, silly plays as to what Will Levis has been through 2 weeks. Like there have been signs that he might be okay. Like he's made some throws that will make you kind of like raise your eyebrow and be like, okay, well, that's kind of a throw you want your second year quarterback to be making, and that's a really good throw. The turnover issues have been there. He had 2 last week. One of them was another same thing. We all saw the clip of Callahan. WTF are you doing? Like, I mean, just all sorts of. I mean, but then the second pick was actually not his fault. Like, it was a really good throw. Burks just didn't go up and get it because
Yeah.
Burks doesn't know how to catch deep balls because he's a glory. I mean, he's just a big bust. And so, but with that being said, like I do think Levis does good things. So I do think that if you see his stuff and you're auto betting unders or you're scared to take overs, I don't think you necessarily have to be scared to do that. I do think there's going to be some value in him as the season goes on, especially too like they played the Jets defense and the Bears defense in the first 2 weeks. Like I mean, 2 units who I would tell you are both really good. So I would say like especially as you get in and you're playing, teams like the Packers, teams later in the year that won't have such strong defenses, I do think there's going to be some value on Levis overs.
Yeah. And I think right now the number being under 200 yards, I think he goes for 200 plus today. So I'm going to back Levis, sorry, with his pass yards. So let's go to the 6th game. We've got Texans taking on the Vikings, couple 2-0 teams. Darnold is good, question mark, after how he's played through a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I like them. I actually like the Vikings in this spot too. I just think anytime short road favorite less than 3. I like the Vikings at home. I think this thing's another coin flip. I would take the points and back the Vikings. I do think O'Connell has presented a floor for that system where he's going to make things really easy for Darnold. Darnold's arm talent was never the issue as far as why he could or couldn't succeed in the NFL. So I do think that I think they're gonna be able to score points here. Like I think they score points. I think it's a high scoring game in a dome. But I do think the Vikings probably come out on top here, believe it or not.
Yeah, this is one that I didn't bet as far as the game goes. I do have a little bit of a Tank Dell ladder today because he hasn't been too involved in the offense through 2 weeks. So you can get his receiving yards. I think it was 51.5 plus a touchdown and his longest reception play. You ladder all those together and it's plus 350. So I think he's due for a long bomb at some point. I think this is a good spot against this Vikings defense, but that's
I
kind of
think
the play that I like.
I think the thing with the Texans offense that we probably all underestimated was A, when Mixon's healthy, their ability to run the ball.
Yeah.
And then B, I think we probably universally, and I mean, again, this is another dude who's on my fantasy team who I obviously like to some extent, but like I think we probably all have universally underrated how good Nico Collins is. Like
Oh yeah, 100% we have.
the guy
He's
is a wide
so good.
the guy's probably a top 8 to 10 wide receiver in the
Yeah.
NFL right now. And I think we all knew, hey, this is a really good receiver. But I think we probably all were like, yeah, but he's one of those dudes who everybody respects that's really more like a top 20 receiver. And I
Yeah.
think now it's like, no, like once you get past like, your really household names and you start kind of looking for young guys who are maybe on the come up to fill that void once some of these older guys are out, he's he's one of them. Like he's a top 8 to 10 receiver. It's
I think people created this notion around him because of the first couple years in the league, which let's face it, didn't have great quarterback play. You put a guy around him and it shows how talented he really is. And so I think Nico, he's the clear number 1 there. Diggs is going to get some targets as well. But the reason why I like Tank today, because they don't have Mixon, this does feel like I think this could be a bit of a shootout. Like I think I would take the over here, over 46, because I think Darnold's going to make some throws. And I think Stroud's going to do the same. And So I think the fact that Tankdale hasn't had that bomb that we saw like pretty consistently last year, I think this is a good spot for him. So getting his touchdown yards and reception for plus 350, you're basically just hoping he gets it one play. And I think that's really good value at plus 350. So let's head over to our next game. We are looking at, oh, I think I skipped past a slide or two. It's glitching on mine. There we go. Bears, Colts. Look, I like DJ Moore today. I think Caleb hasn't been great through 2 weeks. This is one of these spots where if he's actually worth anything, then he should be able to go out and have a pretty good game today. I'm not expecting him to throw for 350, but 250, couple touchdowns, maybe he throws one bad pick. Like, I think that should be what Caleb's looking at today. A lot of people like Swift rush yards. I know that, especially in our chat. But what do you think of this game?
Yeah, so my second show play for OTBN, I've got Colts -1.5. I actually kind of disagree. I think Caleb looks like
Okay.
a rookie. I think Caleb looks like a rookie quarterback. I think there's good, there's bad. I do think the one that's probably, I do think the Colts will do a better job as the season goes on of playing to Anthony Richardson's strengths. And I do think one of those strengths is going to be at home in the dome and just being able to be explosive in those situations. I think they're going to find ways. I think they'll find ways to make enough big plays in this game to win the game. And they really have to have it. Like, this is one where if the Colts want to remain competitive throughout the season, this is a game they have to go and get. You're also getting a road back to back here for the Bears, where you probably get a little bit of tired legs, and if this thing's physical at the line of scrimmage over the course of a full game, then I think just really Indianapolis should be able to win this thing against a team that's coming in not fresh. They haven't been at home. And NFL players don't like being away from home for that long. I mean, it's just not something you're having to travel from one spot to the next and all that stuff. So I do think the Colts. I do think the Colts win today. Find a way to remain competitive. And again, another team that really, I mean, when you look at it, probably unfortunate to be 0-2. Like, probably has caught some bad luck in order to be 0-2, and so I do think that they find a way to win a game against probably easily their worst opponent they've played so far this year. I guess you could argue last week the Packers with Malik Willis would be the worst team that they had played so far, but that was kind of just a perfect storm for Green Bay. Really, I mean, there was no film, there was no way to prepare for what they were going to do. This is a much more cut and dry task. I think Indianapolis is up to it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not backing a side. I'll back the DJ Moore receptions. It's plus 110 for over 5.5. I do think that he's going to get force fed a little bit today. And I mean, honestly, if it does go with what you're thinking, which is that Colts win, then Caleb's going to have to make some throws as they're trailing. So I think he is going to have to lean on DJ. There's no Keenan Allen today, so he's basically relying on Kmet, who he hasn't had a lot of chemistry with yet. No Dunze. We'll see if is it his dad or his uncle that keeps posting all of the times that he's open on Twitter. I can't remember.
I can't remember. I think this is a 24-20 finish, really, basically, or like a kind of like a 21-17 type finish. I would lean under on the total, really, but I can't get there as an official play. I do think that I do
You
think
just like the
Indianapolis
Colts
can
today.
yeah, just the Colts.
Okay, understandable. Well, I'll back DJ. You back the Colts. We'll get his 6 receptions, and you can get the Colts to win by a field goal, and then we're both happy. So let's head over to the 8th game. This is one that I really like. Seattle, they're -4 at home, taking on the Dolphins. No Tua, who's on IR. Does sound like he is going to keep playing football, though, once he's off of IR. So we're going to Skylar Thompson today. I'm back in Miami +4. Look, Seattle, they didn't look great against Denver. They didn't look great against New England. End of the day, they're 2-0, but those are two opponents that we thought if Seattle is going to be a playoff team, then they should be beating them in a bit more impressive fashion. I think Miami is going to get to the run game today. The key for them is Skylar's going to have to make a couple of big throws today. He doesn't have to make a ton, but if you can get Tyreek and Waddle into some screens, into some end arounds, I think that it's a good spot for them. I know the touchdown score that you like for this game today. You're looking at JSN. Why do you like JSN?
Well, I mean, I love the fact that he's going to be such a big part of this offense. I mean, last week you were looking at, I think he caught like 10 of 17 targets for over 100 and some odd yards, and he didn't find his way into the end zone. And even in week 1, the targets were there. He didn't catch as many balls, but he's been a stable part of this offense. His target share has been pretty massive. I think he's kind of viewed as like almost like a safety blanket for Gino. Like it's going to be everything from 5 to 15 or 20. Like he's not really going to be one that burns anybody deep. But I do think that just like being the guy in the slot and making plays that way, I do think that he's just. I hate to use this phrase but I mean it just feels like he's due to get in the end zone. Like, it feels like he's due to get in the end zone with all the targets, all the catches. It's a matter of time that one of those comes inside the 15 and he finds a way to get in. I like it today against the Dolphins, especially too with the Dolphins defense is pretty tough against receivers. So I kind of think that DK on the outside is going to get the majority of the attention. I think Gino's going to be forced to kind of get through progressions and get to some of the other options. And I think this is another really good spot for JSN. And it's similar to exactly what we saw last week with Christian Gonzalez following DK and making DK's life really hard. I think JSN is going to reap the benefits of that.
Yeah, I would agree there. I do think that this is a spot where Miami, they maybe don't win this game, but if you tell me that this finishes 20-17, then I wouldn't be too surprised here today. I do think Miami's defense is pretty solid as well. It's probably the best defense that they would have faced yet. So yeah, I like Miami today. Let's head on over to our ninth game. We got Panthers Raiders. The Red Rocket is in today for Carolina. I think there's a lot of trendy bets right now on Carolina to cover this game because they're super fired up to see Andy Dalton in there instead of Bryce Young. I still don't think Carolina's worth a damn, but I will say that one of our plays for our TD parlay today, so we already had JSN, that was yours. Jay Parlay gave us Adam Thielen today. He informed me that when Dalton played one game last year for them, he had 12 receptions and a touchdown with Andy Dalton. So he likes Thielen today. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers are probably the correct side. I know some sharp people on both sides, so I kind of am just going to sit back and watch. I don't have a strong lean. I don't know how Dalton's going to fill in with the Panthers offense. I don't know what that's going to look like. I know that the Panthers offensive line, PFF wise, is graded actually as a top five pass blocking offensive line in the league. So in theory, if you gave a guy like Dalton some time, he should be able to move the football and do some things. I feel like it'd be easier to just bet the game over if you think they're going to move the ball, because you know the Raiders are going to move the ball, especially at home. But I mean, with Carolina, you still, even with the quarterback replacement, you still have an East Coast team traveling all the way out west, changing time zones and having to play out there. So I don't. I mean, I can't get anywhere with this one. It'll be a complete pass for me. I understand why people are playing Carolina. But I mean, I'm just not gonna. I've done my one for the year. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I've got my one in on Carolina, and I think I'm with you. I'm shelving them at least for a little bit until I see how Dalton looks in there. I did bet Bowers just straight up touchdown at plus 220, put a half unit on it. I do think that the Raiders are going to score some points today. It's just a question of, is it Zamir White, is it Adams, or is it a guy like Bowers? Maybe is a bit of a longer shot. So that's the only play that I would have in this game. But shout out to Jay Parlay. He gave us Thielen. So we got JSN and we got Thielen for the TD parlay at the end. We even have our third one, and this is going to be my touchdown one. But let's talk about the game itself first. San Francisco, they're minus 6.5 on the road. Look, no Puka, no Cup. Stafford's going to have to make throws to guys like Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson. I played Johnson as a straight-up touchdown one today because I do think that Stafford's going to have to make some throws. But what do you think of this game?
I mean, I hope you're wrong because I'm playing him in fantasy. So,
okay. Well, how about one catch for a touchdown from the 1 yard line?
I was about to say 1 for one touchdown, and maybe,
yeah,
but
I'm in.
especially since the Jets defense got me for 17 points the other night. Like that game that seemed to be comfortably in hand pre Joe Mixon injury and pre Jets defense is now more of a coin flippy type deal. So, yeah, but I actually like the Rams ATS though. I do think that this is kind of a spot. We talk a lot about teams that are going to have to perform, 0-2 teams that are going to have to get up and perform. And I do think this is one for the Rams where they have to step up and they have to play really well. They have to find a way to win the game. I don't know that they win it outright, but I do think they can stay within the number and play this to a one possession game, especially with a divisional opponent. There's so much familiarity. I do think that they're able to play this one tight. We had Arizona. I've seen their board pretty well so far. We liked them in week 1 against Detroit, where I believe they covered. Or maybe they didn't. They got into overtime, like it was the
Yeah.
right side. It was the right bet, and then we faded them last week on bets on bets on bets with the Cardinals, which was a blowout winner. And then this week we're coming back. We're taking the Rams and zigzagging again and taking them against the Niners.
I do actually like the under in this game. I think part of it has to do with I talked about the Rams injuries. No CMC, no Kittle, no Devo. We're gonna have to see Brock Purdy make some throws to Ayuk and Mason and Jennings. So we'll see how he looks without his weapons. He hasn't historically looked great when those guys aren't in the lineup. So, but I do like Ayuk to get in the end zone today at plus 100. I do think that if he is gonna get in the end zone or throw it to a guy in the end zone, I should say, then it is going to be a guy like Ayuk, and he's plus 100 today. So I like him for the TD parlay in a game like this. But I actually do like the Rams as well to cover this game. I almost had it in my card for bets on bets on bets, but I held off just in case. So not an official play, but I agree. I do like the Rams. I think we both like that side if you're looking to play this game. Now we're getting into some of the later games, which are probably some of the better ones of the day. So Lions Cardinals, I think this is going to be a really exciting one. I've got the Detroit team total over 26 and a half at minus 120. That's officially in my card for today. I think that this has shootout potential. We know Arizona's defense isn't spectacular. They looked good last week, but not great week one. And now you're taking on a Detroit team that really needs to get right after a pretty poor performance against Tampa. And that being said, I still don't love Detroit's defense. I know that Hutchinson had a massive week last week, but I think that Kyler's going to be able to get out in space, make some throws. So I like the over in this game, but I'm taking Detroit's team total as my official play. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I wanted to like the Cardinals, and I just don't. So I mean, I think I like the game over. I don't have a feel for the spread. I think three is probably really sharp. I think that's probably what it comes down to. I think someone's got the ball with a chance to win the game in a high scoring game. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would play the game over if I was going to play anything, but I think I'm just going to pass.
Okay, well that covers that game. Now we'll head over to the one that I'll be tuned into the most today, that being Baltimore and Dallas. 0-2 Ravens. I don't think we were expecting to hear that through 2 weeks. And then you've got 1-1 Dallas, but they looked very bad last week against the Saints. Is this a get right spot for Dallas, or is this Baltimore really needs a win and they come in and pick up the win?
Yeah, this is a fascinating spot because Baltimore has to have the game, but Dallas kind of needs it too. So I mean, it really is a fascinating spot. I would lean Dallas, but I mean, I'm staying away just because there's so many dynamics here, and I feel like it's almost impossible to predict. Um, yeah, I mean, I would stay away. Really, I do think it's going to be pretty high scoring. If you wanted an additional touchdown score to Lamar, I think Zay Flowers is probably back in the end zone again today. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have a hard time with the number. I mean, I know no duh, it's a coin flip spot if it's a 1 point spread, but literally, I think you can flip a coin, and you either win or you lose. And I'm looking for a little bit more edge than that.
Yeah, this does feel like a spot where it's going to come down to who makes the mistake at the bad time. And I think it could be either team. Dak could make a bad throw, someone could miss a kick. Like, I think that that's definitely possible in a spot like this.
Well, if
So,
someone misses, I tell you what, this is not the game for missed kicks. That is for
I don't
sure.
know. Tucker's already missed kicks, and
That's true.
it wouldn't be outside of Dallas's purview to in an important spot miss a kick.
I've got
So
to stop giving kickers credit. I was standing somewhere last night and talking about how great South Florida's kicker was before he hooked the 31-yarder left from the right hash and missed it. And he was like, "Really? So he's good, right?" Yeah. And I was like, "So yeah, you didn't see the 57-yarder earlier, but you see the 31-yarder that he shanks going into the half." So
yeah, kickers are on my shit list right now. The Nebraska kicker missing the 38-yarder really put me in a bad graces with kickers, at least until they redeem themselves. So not too thrilled with them right now. The touchdown parlay, we do have NHL goalie gave us Lamar touchdown. He likes him to get in the end zone today. I find it tough to bet touchdowns with the Ravens, especially in the run game, because it could just be Derek ends up with 2 or 3 tutties today. But I still think that it's a pretty good spot there. So
yeah, I've learned that the hard way last week, thinking Mark Andrews would get right, and nope.
we always say get right, and then they don't end up getting right. So let's cap it off with the final game of the day. That's the Chiefs taking on the Falcons. Falcons massive win on Monday Night Football. Kirk drove them down the field, and they're taking on Kansas City. coming off a win over the Bengals at the last second, which was pass interference. We both know that. So, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, it's my last show play. I've got the Falcons at home. I do think that week one was probably, now looking back, I think it was more of an anomaly. I think Kirk's probably kind of getting healthy. I don't think he's there, but he's in the process of getting there. And I think that's enough really here. Kansas City really has been pretty fortunate to be 2-0. And I know that when you're the Super Bowl champs, you find ways to win games, but I do think that I do think it's pretty much borderline unsustainable for them to continue winning the way that they're winning. Whereas Atlanta, I feel like the offense got right. They won a thriller last week against Philadelphia, and you built momentum. So I do think that the short week thing is kind of mitigated with the fact that they're playing Sunday night. So I think they find a way to keep this thing within a field goal. I was fortunate. I got him early in the week at 3.5, but I'm giving him out for the show here at 3, just for numbers consistency. I think this is one that Atlanta can win outright and continue building momentum, especially as they know they have to keep chasing the Saints, because the Saints have played hot early. I think now the division's maybe not so. The division's not so just handed to them. It's not just a given anymore. So I do think that they're kind of chasing the Saints early, and they don't want to fall too far behind. So I do think that Atlanta finds a way to win this game. I don't know that Kansas City necessarily needs it, but Mahomes always seems to show up in prime time. So I do think an interesting prop too. If you can find a Mahomes interception prop, I think that's interesting too. We know how much he loves to target Kelsey, but the Falcons have two of the best safeties in the NFL right now. So I do think that they're going to get really good coverage there, and Mahomes loves to throw picks in prime time. So
I don't hate that either. I look, at the end of the day, there's going to be spots where the Chiefs are going to lose. Like, they're not going to go undefeated. At least I don't think that they will. So I think that this is a tough one for them on the road. They had such an emotional win over Cincinnati. We know that that's one of their bigger rivals. I do think that this is a letdown spot where they maybe lay a little bit of an egg. So I'm probably going to back Atlanta with you. I like that you can get the +3. That's a good number. So I like that play. So TD parlay wise, we got JSN, we got Ayuk, we got Thielen, and we got Lamar. Odds on that parlay are +5,500. Really nice odds on that one if it hits. And then as far as our show plays go, I've got Philly +2.5, Miami +4, Detroit team total over 26.5, and then I'm playing Will Levis over pass yards, DJ Moore over receptions, and then you've got Colts -1.5, the Titans game under, and Atlanta +3. We got everything covered, or you got any more picks?
I think that's it.
All right, so we've got a ton of picks out there. We're going to be posting them over in the Playbook HQ Discord, wap.com/the Playbook HQ for those, as well as our bets on bets plays will be posted right away over on the Off the Ball Network socials. So be on the lookout for those. Check out Fieldstormers podcast for Walker. Check out Competitive Hedge for me. We appreciate everyone who tuned in today on Sunday. Let's have a profitable Sunday, hey Walker? Like we need a good Sunday.
Need it. Big time. Need it.
All right. Appreciate everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you guys next time for Bets on Bets / the Film Room.